Hi everyone, Bees here from MoshTalks. I hope this finds you well over at the pit. Enjoy this upcoming chat that I had with Noodles and Dexter from the Offspring. I have to say, technical mishaps happened. It meant that I missed the first 30 seconds of the interview, in which case I said, "Hi, I'm Bees from MoshTalks and the pit. Here is Noodles and Dexter from the Offspring. It's been 9 years since your last album, Days Gone By. That's a long time, isn't it?" And go.
Being able to putting out a record and not being able to tour live on it, and I miss Warped Tour too, by the way. I miss playing live shows in general. So that's probably the weirdest part of all this.
So forgive my ignorance, because Dexter, I read an interview where you said that you write all of the time. Has this record been written in lockdown, recorded in lockdown? When was this all put together, or was this one of the records that was ready to go and then we got hit with a pandemic?
That one, yeah, it was. we did most of it a couple of years ago and finished it right. Well, we thought we finished it right before the pandemic hit. We even had a tentative release schedule and all that stuff, and decided we didn't want to put it out in the middle of the pandemic. And so we're like, well, let's just take another look at the songs. So we kind of fine-tuned the songs during the pandemic, and then a year later, here we are still in a pandemic, and thought, well, we don't want to wait forever. Let's just put it out. And I'm glad we finally got it out, because it's the right time for these songs. It's the right time for this record.
I mean, the world's still messed up.
Yes.
God forbid the world get better all of a sudden, and this record doesn't have a place in it.
I mean, that would have been inconsiderate of the world.
Yeah,
I think.
come on.
We had to have that discussion. Like, come on, guys, things might get good
what
again.
if the world gets good?
Yeah,
we got to put this record out while it's still bad.
Let the bad times roll. You could just have a squiggle through the word bad and write good over it. So, from a musical direction, though, I love the fact that during this period, since the last full length, there was the Summer Nationals EP, which is, you're going out with your friends, and it was a fast and hard EP. And then the follow-up coming for you was this baseball stadium size glam rock opus. And those two things going into a new record left me with kind of, what can the direction be? What will the direction be? And something that I think is cool about the Offspring in this era is I don't feel like there's a textbook Offspring sound at this point. Do you feel free when you write?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. We do feel free. And I think you're right. There is no textbook Offspring sound, but an Offspring song when you hear one. Isn't that kind of weird? And I don't know that we could entirely account for that. I know what our thought process is when we're in the studio, and mainly it's how do we make this song sound as good as it can, generally with heavy guitar, bass, and drums. A lot of focus on making the guitar sound really good. We're both guitar players, and so that's a big thing for us, but you want the whole thing to sound good. So
I think we kind of just write what we write, and don't worry about how it's going to fit into anything until later.
So is it a basic quality thing then? When you say it's time for a record, and you say you write all of the time, was it just a case of now we've got 33 minutes, we're totally confident in this material?
For sure. No, I know there's sometimes you get a few good songs, and I've heard people say there's a rush to get the record out and they kind of just do whatever, but we've never been like that. I wouldn't have a filler track on a record. So if we need the extra time to write, we will.
And when you say that you've played with these songs a little bit extra, what did you do to delve deeper into these songs? Because one would imagine that even if it was written beforehand, were lyrics something that were changed? Because the world's narrative has changed in the time since you were saying we felt like we had this finished.
That's kind of true. It's weird. I'm looking back at some of the lyrics I wrote, This Is Not Utopia, and it sounds like I wrote it about last summer, and it was written before last summer. So I don't know if we just kind of had a sense. You could just I think everybody could just kind of feel that something bad was bubbling.
For years, tensions have been building.
Yeah.
The forces that try to keep us divided have gotten stronger, and those divisions have gotten wider. And it's not just that we see a lot of that in the US, but I think really you see that, worldwide. I mean, certainly with Brexit, you guys have your issues with divisiveness in your own country. So,
yeah.
Where was I going with that? Oh, yeah. So when it comes to like what the songs are about, that only got worse, I think, during the pandemic. You'd think the pandemic would get people closer together. We got this common enemy that we all got to get together and fight. But no, it becomes like you're either pro-mask or anti-mask, or you believe COVID? COVID's just the flu. It's a hoax. Why would you get vaxxed? Then you have the whole anti-vaxxer thing. We're more divided than ever, when we should be coming together to kind of fight this common enemy.
In America, we'll argue about anything.
No, we won't. Shut up.
I moved to California partially because of Brexit, so I hear you loudly on this one.
All right, yeah.
And so I guess I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the culture of punk rock, because we had Fat Mike on a couple of weeks ago. And something that's interesting about the Offspring is you guys are pretty private people. Like, when the Offspring aren't doing shit, we don't see and hear from you guys a lot. So, do you think that plays in a little bit to the fact that when you say we wrote these songs in that time, and times have been shitty for a while, right? The pandemic exacerbated a shitty time rather than made a shitty time. I wondered, like, does that give us a bit of a closer insight into your mentality, I guess?
I don't know if we're so private or if we're just boring when we're not actually, out in front of people. It's not like I'm accidentally firing my weapon off in the club.
It's an amazing mental image, though. Noodles.
I don't have a sex tape with anybody from any family anywhere. I got to work on these things, Yeah.
But this is it. Do you think that, because when you say that, like, yeah, we live these normal lives. Like, I think of your relationship with Bob Rock. Like, I am a lifelong Metallica obsessive, right? So my experience of watching Bob Rock essentially is a year and a half in the life of Metallica and some kind of monster. And I read the quote, "Our producers always tell us that we don't have enough drama from you two." And I can't tell you how much I belly laughed thinking of those two things as polar opposites. What's Bob like in the studio when it's not like all out hell?
You know what? It's never all out hell with Bob. I mean, we do have our disagreements from time to time about things, but generally we see pretty eye to eye, and he just kind of keeps pushing us beyond where we're at, creatively to make sure we're getting the best, performance, the best part of a song, the best song as a whole.
He's able to push us in a very nice way.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll come in, we'll lay something down. I'll be like, this painting is complete. It's finished. And he'll be like, I think you could put something in that spot. And I'm like, what are you talking about? It doesn't need anything there, but part of it, if you ask someone to help on your record, you can't not take their advice, right? You got to go, okay, well, what do you think we should do? And you go, well, I don't know. What would you do? Like, he's not throwing it back at me. But like a great example is the last chorus of "This Is Not Utopia," that the little guitar line.
Okay.
I thought that the song was done. It didn't need anything else there. And he goes, it might be cool to do a little guitar thing in there. I'm like, okay, well, what kind of little guitar thing? And he just kept on throwing, what would you do? What would you do? So I just came up with that line and put it in there. But now when I listen to it, I love when that part comes in, because it just kind of lifts the chorus there. And like, he was right. He saw something in it that we would have missed.
I love the fact that this relationship has gone for a bunch of records now, because I think the thing that I love most about it is that, like, when you guys were like Jennifer Lost the War and beheaded and stuff, he was making Dr. Feelgood. Like, I love that juxtaposition. How how does that relationship work? Because Bob's records are that and Sonic Temple and Bon Jovi and fucking, you know, the Black Album. Like, with your band being, well, I mean, we'll talk genre later, but with your band being a punk band and this guy being like Michael Bay, if Michael Bay made good movies, right? Like it's blockbuster, it's big, it's huge. Like how does that correlate between you and he? How has that relationship been from day one to now? Has it altered much? Did the flow come naturally from the start with Bob?
You know, it really did. We just kind of connected, you know, aesthetically about music. But what a lot of people don't know about Bob is before Metallica, before Motley Crue, and Bon Jovi, he was doing punk bands in Vancouver. He had some time in his studio, and he would just, you know, on like off the clock.
Subhumans.
He did. He worked with the Subhumans, the Canadian Subhumans. Yeah. DOA. He worked with. I didn't know he did a DOA record. I need to do my homework more. Fuck. Yeah. So he's, you know, he goes way back with that scene, and also when he was in the Payolas, those guys, they didn't really know what to do with the Payolas because they were a new wave band, so they started playing them with punk bands all the time. So they played a bunch of shows in punk clubs with other punk bands and knew the scene very well. So a lot of people don't know that that's really the Bob's early years, his, you know, formative years, as it were, you know, and he's got that background as well as all the, you know, the big rock stuff that he's done as well.
So it was very easy to talk to him about a punk song and how it should go. He got it. He knew it already.
Do you give a shit about genre anymore?
No.
Good.
Give a shit about what?
Genre. I mean, you know, we've gone from punk band to where that sounded limiting after a while. I'm like, no, we're a rock band. And then I've gone back to like, well, no, that's our roots. We're a punk band. So now it's like, I don't know what we are. We're a band. I don't really care what they call us. It seems like lately people are calling us a punk band. Have you noticed that? We're very much a punk band right now.
That's where our heart is at, though. I mean, it really is. That's the music that helped us find our way in this world, even before we were playing in bands. Just helped us question the world we were being brought up in and getting ready to go out into ourselves, you know, and how to navigate that. Really, punk rock was kind of what gave us a stiff backbone and able to face all that. So
can we sing a rad band or a gnarly band?
Let's just
I wish, but we'd have a nightmare like racking those things in. You don't need to rack them in stores anymore.
Yeah, rad gnarly band. Yeah. I like that.
I think the reason I ask is because while it becomes nonsensical after a while, like where those lines stop, I think of you as like, if not spokespeople, because I mentioned that you guys stay quiet, but certainly figureheads for that entire movement. The reason why I brought up Warped Tour earlier is because it felt unfeasible that it's not a thing anymore. And I see, because I moved to LA in 2017, and one of the things I find most endearing about going to shows here are seeing people like Fletch from Pennywise and people from your scene all naturally hanging out together at shows and things like that. It's a fucking thing. It's a bond that once it's there, it's there. And when this goes down, how much does it affect the culture and the culture's future? Something like Warped Tour, because you know pre-Warped. Like, so how much of a blow or how much of an impact is that not being here going to have on the culture?
I think us rad gnarly guys are going to be able to survive it. You know.
Oh, you'll survive, but I just mean new bands coming through, like the culture's existence. Like the Offspring haven't needed Warped Tour since its inception, but there's a band in Wisconsin that have really got something, and a tour like that used to really make a difference. Like how much it not being there does it make a difference to future Offsprings?
I mean I miss Warped Tour every summer. It was the one tour that if I was in town and not on tour myself, I went to all the time. Loved it. There's still things that are happening and still scenes that are happening. But yeah, as far as like a nationwide tour like that really did kind of, I mean, Kevin Lyman did so much for so many people, really, taking that out on the road. He kind of took what Black Flag did in a van and put it in a bunch of buses under tents in really hot sun and humid temperatures for 9 weeks out of every year for like 25 years.
It's not an easy tour to go on.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, I miss it as a fan, and we came up at a time when we didn't need it to help spread the word about us, but I do miss it as a fan. And there's a lot of great bands that came out of that tour and that scene. Hopefully somebody comes up with something similar. But there's always, I think with the internet, there's always ways to hook up with people. You can plan a whole tour in an afternoon on the internet, really, on any of the socials.
Of course. I mean, the overriding thing that I've got is what we're left with is when the musical digital service providers have their punk playlists and their things like that. It feels like, are we all relying on things like Machine Gun Kelly now?
Machine Gun Kelly will save us all. Yes. Yeah.
We had Mike here a couple of weeks ago. He was talking about the punk rock museum that you guys are involved in.
Right.
So I know that this shit is something that matters to you guys.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start rapping, just to show him.
Yeah.
It feels
you already did
like
that. LAPD, dude. Come on.
Yeah.
LAPD.
I'm switching teams.
Yeah.
It is true. Like, how do you look back at California Cruising now, nearly a decade later? Then, so if we're talking you rapping, Dexter.
I know it was this close to being a huge hit.
I think LAPD was his better rap, though, personally.
Very true.
Yeah.
Like, have you felt when you look back at material like that, and you've got an album that is truly fearless, like this one is? Does it feel limitless at this point in time? Just to kind of close up this chat, in terms of when you've got this new material and you are about to take it on the road. Hopefully, we know there's UK dates. Is that a Euro tour as well with the Hives?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's us with the Hives, and that's the first brand new dates that we've set. Most of the dates that are on the books are holdovers from last year when we just had to kind of roll everything over. We still got to do catch up on stuff, prior engagements, or prior commitments. So this is the first time we're going out and announcing new dates after the pandemic. So
yeah,
you talked about, does it feel limitless or whatever? I think there's been a lot of things that we've put together over the last several years. I mean, this studio is our studio, and it takes years to get all the equipment in place. And we've developed this great relationship with Bob. We had other things like our manager retired. We had to go find a new manager. We didn't have a record label. We had to find a record label. So it really, part of our absence, besides the pandemic, threw it off another year, is that we had to get all these things lined up and in place.
True.
And it feels like it is really lined up.
I thought of all that when that asked that question before.
Yeah, I know. I hadn't either until right now.
Yeah.
So I feel like we're in a good place now. Like, I don't think it's going to be 9 years for the next record. I think it'll be a couple.
Does it put the bit between your teeth when you're having to do all of that? Because I think it's easy for people to think the Offspring have got it easy, right? When you lay it all out like that, and you're like, well, actually, this, and this happened. Did that have any effect on this as well, in terms of getting the bit between your teeth? And
I mean, at the times you don't know how those things are going to affect you going forward. Will the band even survive?
Exactly.
Losing our management.
Will the band survive?
Joining a new label. How will the band survive that? Fortunately, we do have a history. We've got a bunch of great records behind us to kind of prop us up, and we feel confident moving forward that we can continue doing what we do. We still feel like we have things to say about the world and music to make that fits and that adds something to the what is rock and roll. I mean, as long as we still feel like that we're doing that and that we can do that well. I don't know if it feels limitless necessarily, but it still feels like we can do this and it can still be fun and we can still enjoy it.
Was that ever a question? The question of continuing?
Not really. You know,
That's
with
it.
all the things that we went through, we were, you know, wondering, will this somehow make it more difficult to the point where we can't continue? You know, I hope not. God, we do love doing what we do. So hopefully we can keep on doing it for a while.
Amen. The album, Let the Bad Times Roll, is out now. Dexter and Noodles, thanks so much. I know you've been doing a ton of press today and a ton of hangouts and all kinds of things. So thank you so much for giving us your time today, guys.
Thank
Great
you,
talking
man.
to you.
Our
Thank you.
pleasure.